Hey, it's Carolyn, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm very intrigued about today's guest, and I think you will be too. We have Kim Woods, award-winning business strategist, master astrologer, best-selling author. Kim combines astrology, ancient feminine wisdom, and her 25 plus years of C-suite experience to help become rich and powerful and make a big impact and leave your legacy. As JP Morgan says, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Kim uses the stars plus strategy to clear your success pathway to live your soul mission. Good morning, Kim. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. I am so excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you. Okay, so before we dive into all the good things, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this interesting place.
Right? I mean, because it's kind of crazy. Like, who is doing astrology with business, right? Especially growing up in business, right? So, I grew up in corporate. I then went to Oracle. I had a very traditional experience, and then my soul wouldn't stop talking and yelling at me to say, you need to do this differently. Like my first toe dip was, reviving the heart and soul in business. And I would have CEOs sitting around a conference table, and I'd have them coloring books before it was like an adult coloring book experience, and they'd all be mad and they'd all be, like all, curmudgeon-y, and then they just, after 5 minutes, they start losing themselves, and then it would all be awesome, and we could talk about different things. So I then went and did like more fun with like children's puzzles, and like just some different, like playing telephone or like reading the Wren Hen during like training, employee training. And then it was like, stop playing around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really just go for this. If you go for this and own it, people will respond positively. But I live in Boston. It wasn't exactly an easy thing, right? Like when I walked into a networking event as a business strategist, people would be like, ooh, what do you have to say to me? Like, tell me all the things. You walk into that same room and you say, I'm an astrologer, and you get the side eye, right? Like, you're like, what is happening right now? So it took me a hot minute. Like it definitely took me a little bit to get to this point, but honestly, I couldn't help myself. And then finally, when I said yes, it was like the worlds parted. And then all of a sudden I got this great client roster and people say yes. And, all the things fell into alignment. It was one of those hallmark moments, I think.
That's pretty amazing. So how does one become a master astrologer?
Oh, it's not easy. I gotta tell you. So it's, astrology, it is very scientific because it's like the planets are in the sky and they're doing all the things that they're doing. However, it takes, I say to people, it's like 5 years, 5,000 hours. Not only are you studying, so, if you get a certification in it, but you're doing the practicum, so you're actually applying it. And I wanted to get to the position where I was an expert. I had that genius and that mastery. So then you're really adopting your own way of formulating and integrating and doing things. So I started the blog. I started doing the monthly forecasts, and then I started doing weekly forecasts. I've done 1,600 forecasts.
Wow.
So you practice, right? Like it takes a lot because it's geometry, right? Who wants geometry? Who wants angles? But it's only angles, right? So, people can know like, oh, my sun sign is here. That's interesting. But when you know the angles and you know the 500-year cycles and you know the dance, that's where you really get to be able to interpret it for people that it's meaningful.
So how do you use astrology to help business owners? How do the two link?
Yeah. So there's like 3 components to it. The first one is direction, right? So like when like, hey, this is a good time to launch, it's a good time to sell and promote, it's a good time to hire. That will give you the ability to set your strategy, make your plans, really set your marketing calendar. Then there's another layer where you're understanding the energetics, what I was talking about, those angles, like what are the stars asking of you? So we're probably going to talk a little bit about 2025, right? So every year has a theme, every month has a theme, and there are questions that arise. So understanding how you answer the questions through your own stars really gives you power that will give you the leading edge. And that's what JP Morgan was talking about, right? Like give you the edge over others so that you can not only take advantage of good times, but avoid pitfalls. And you do it in a way that's more personal to you versus like that painting across the sky for the year or the month.
So like what you're saying, the astrology kind of lays out a plan of this is what's going to happen. And then the individual uses their own creativity.
So there's 2 ways that I do that. So if you're really in a one-on-one container with me, I can use your own stars. And then the way your stars affect the stars in the sky. That's beautiful. That's like the A1A. But I also use your energetic signature if you're kind of out in the world, whether you're listening to my podcast or you're reading my blog or something where I've come up with, it is based on astrology, but there are 6 energetic signatures that measure it, whether you enter the world through your mind and your thoughts, or your heart and connections, or your will and actions, because you have a predisposition. And based on that, then we can interpret how to best use those stars, because for some people it might be great to launch, and other people it might not be the time to launch. So knowing and understanding there's a little bit more finesse with that, like how your energy operates is another layer. And then honestly, there's a layer that I do in my programs where we're using Mars to help you with sales, we're using Venus to help you with marketing, we're using the moon to help you with gaining satisfaction so you have more energy, we're using Mercury and helping with your messaging. I mean, you can really use these as other people in your business, people in air quotes.
Mm-hmm. So you said 6 different types. What are the different types?
Yeah. So basically there are 2 that enter the world through their knowing or their mind. That's the wise strategist and the intuitive visionary. There are 2 that enter through connection. That's a collaborative explorer, which you can imagine really good at networking. And then the ruling warrior, really good at achieving and striving. They're your success model, but they're very driven and they don't want to take a lot of time. They don't have a lot of patience. And then there are the folks that enter through their action, and that's the loving alchemist and the creative superstar. And so they each have they have a leadership style, they have a marketing style, a sales style, a communication style. And I give all this information so that people know that, this is a really great time for the wise strategist because of these 3 things, but it's really not a good time for the collaborative explorer because of these 3 things.
So I'm going to be a little bit selfish here. I went on your website and I took your test, and I'm an intuitive visionary. And so what does that mean?
Okay, I am too an intuitive visionary. So here we are. We're both in this together. Intuitive visionaries, we enter the world through the possibilities. So we're very inspiring. We're very much, we can see the potential. We are the ones to be able to leap and take a risk. And we are the ones that ideate and innovate and solve problems and think critically. That's wonderful. What are we not so great about? Well, we love ideas, right? Like, yeah, we love ideas. So we're going to pursue too many of them. We are constantly in the creation mode. So for us, I was just talking to one of my other intuitive visionaries in my group. I said, finally, I have an evergreen program. Finally. Whew. It took me so long to say yes to that, but now I see the possibility in that. And so it was something I had to overcome to not be in that constant creation. But we tend to be out of step with the people who follow us because we're moving too fast.
Yeah. And they get frustrated.
And they're like, what are you doing? So for me, like I started my podcast at the top of the year and now I'm on like 120 episodes.
Wow.
Like, hello, intuitive visionary.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So what do you mean when you say we need to live our soul mission?
Yeah. So we all have purpose, right? And so sometimes our purpose is known. You know those people that went to college and they knew exactly what their major was going to be and they knew I'm going to be a teacher and they know it, right? That's their living their soul purpose. It just aligns with who they are. For most of us though, it's more nebulous than that. It's most people come to me and they say, well, I'm a book publisher or I am running a restaurant chain or something like that. Is this my soul mission? Like, am I living my soul mission? And most times I'll say yes, and, right? Like, yes, and there's an underlying piece right here that we want to make sure that you're always employing. Or, yes, that beautiful restaurant chain that you have is wonderful, but let's open it up like this because then your soul will be satisfied. Sometimes it's around team. Sometimes it's around partnership. Sometimes it's around showing up on stages and really showing up. So people will be, what I'm saying to people is like, it's sometimes a 15-degree switch, but think about the trajectory of that 15 degrees, right? Like we're just recalibrating that. Because when you are living your soul mission, you will know it because things are in the flow. Synchronicity will happen. Things will just come. You'll just all of a sudden have your client rostered, which is lovely. And you're like, oh, it's just easier.
Absolutely. And so for somebody who's not on their soul mission, how do you help them?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're not on your soul mission, you're going to know it, especially in these times, because it's becoming ever more difficult not to be. So this is where you're constantly having to rationalize what you're doing. right? So if you're in but I have a positive mindset, and yes, I'm constantly feeding it, and I have my mantras and my affirmations, that's great, but you shouldn't have to use so much energy, right? So so I'm going to do identifiers first, Carolyn, and then talk about how I can help them. So identifiers would be you're more exhausted at the end of the day or the end of the week than you are at the beginning. You're constantly having to like galvanize your mind to be quote unquote on the right track. You're ignoring the nudges that are becoming louder and louder. You're getting inconsistent revenues. Things used to work, but now they don't. So you've kind of hit an upper limit. So people are coming to me, and most of the people that come to me are frustrated. Some of them are fascinated, right? So I'll talk to the frustrated ones. Frustrated, all the things that I just talked about. Wait, I had success, but it's not coming as easily now. This used to work. It doesn't work anymore. I had a team, but I didn't really get what I needed out of the team. So what I do is any way you work with me, I will walk into the stars the minute you're born. I'm going to channel the voice of your soul. We're getting way woo. I am going to align you energetically with what your exact right path is. I'm never going to give up all the experience that you have. We're always going to fold it in and bring it forth, but I'm going to make sure that you are on the right trajectory, because again, even a 15-degree, that trajectory is not awesome. And so I do that one-on-one, or I do that in this beautiful hybrid small group program that I have. You work with me one-on-one and you work with this small group. If you're in my outer world and you're like, well, this sounds kind of a little bit, what are you doing, right? You can go to the newsletter or the podcast or take the quiz, and I will give you weekly forecast tips. I'm going to give you monthly forecast tips. You get a newsletter. I always give a gift in that to help you stay on as much of the path as you possibly can be on. Because sometimes it is just an energetic recalibration of, gee, I'm always coming up with ideas. Hello, intuitive visionary. Why don't I just take a pause and then see what happens?
Yeah,
It could be beautiful.
that's pretty amazing. So on that, how do we overcome and remove mindset blocks to money?
Yeah. So mindset is the first step, right? So we do want to clear our mind, right? So the way I work is I'll give the mind candy, I call it, right? So sometimes it's like, go sit and take a time out. Other times it's like, no. Let's give you that dopamine hit. Let's give you the reasons, right? So I have this beautiful remove your money blocks course that I mostly give away for free, because I don't want people to have issues with money. Like,
Yeah.
it's terrible when you have issues with money, right? So the reality is sometimes it is a mindset, right? Like sometimes we're very cognizant, like we can hear our negative self-talk, right? Why am I charging this much? This person won't buy from me. This doesn't make any sense. Nothing's working in the marketplace, right? So we can beautifully have a more positive, open mindset about that. But it's only going to bring you to like here. It's not going to really make change. It will bring up like a little bit of a change. The key is to be able to feel it, right? So knowing that, wait, how does it feel when someone comes and says yes to you on sales? I was just talking about to a client. Anytime somebody says no, she feels like it's a rejection.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's actually, well, how do we reframe that? How do we then say it could be very purposeful, because there is this beautiful amount of people waiting in the wings, and you're really not talking to the right people, or that wasn't going to work out anyway. Where's your discernment, right? Like, so where is your yes on that? And then there is the unconscious, subconscious. It could be the way you were brought up. It could be ancestral lineage. It could be, soul DNA, and clearing of that is really where you want to get to. So I do that through meditations. I do have meditations for each one of these signatures, the 6 signatures, because you want to get from just the mind down and really align, so that your will, like how you're making decisions and how you're executing and how you're making commitment and how you're responding to things happening, that's really where that's where all the money is.
It's pretty exciting to think about that you can
It is.
that you can change your mindset and things will change.
100%. Thoughts become things in a lot of cases. There are certain times of the year that happens more often than not. And again, knowing that is really important. But the other thing is, I did a free money program a handful of months ago, and it was a 3-part series. It was 3 hours. I had 40 participants. I didn't do a big, huge. I kind of decided to do it pretty late in the game. Got 40 people to come in. Those 40 participants in the first week generated $249,000.
Really.
And it was
So
a
what
free
was the
money program.
secret to that?
What was that?
What was the secret to that?
Yeah, the
How did
secret
that
to that.
happen?
So I did all the things. So first we looked at your signature, and we looked at how you make decisions. We looked at how you showed up for visibility. We looked at self-care, because those are literally looking at how you're not only making, using your mind, but how you're making connection and how you're taking action. And that's the alignment that really matters. But then I went through and I did do the clearing in the ancestrally, and I did do the clearing through the soul DNA. That was the key.
That's pretty amazing. So it's the end of the year. Everybody's coming up with goals for 2025. So tell me about breakthrough to you in 2025. I know it's something you're
Yeah.
working.
So here's the thing with 2025. I really wish that I could have very positive messages about the years. I really do. But it's been since 2019 that I could say, like, oh my God, this is the best year ever. Yeah. So here we are. We're in this time that's fraught, right? Because we've gone through and we've said, you know what, we want to do things in a new way. And so we're at the initiation of doing things in a new way. And what are the new ways? Not to be so controlling, not to be in that exhausting, stress creating, unfortunately, lack creating, that like more and faster is better. We're
Mm.
switching that. We're saying, "Whoa, let's look at the cycles. Let's understand and appreciate, like that our satisfaction that matters. Like let's be able to have a replenishment of our own energy and our resources, and just our own like mind relief, right? Like let's be able to take vacations, right? So as we're looking at the change with that, everything is new, and the stars are always conspiring for our success, but a lot of times it's tough love.
Mm.
So yay. So we just came out of this very edgy 2024, which it felt like we swung on one edge, and then we felt like we came to another edge, and it felt like there was no middle ground. I was telling all my clients and all the people that would listen to me, fill yourself up at the core. Like that's the key to going forward, because in the next 9 months, we have something that has never happened in our lifetimes. We have all these outer planets, quote unquote, changing signs. What does that mean? The energy of the world is shifting legitimately, and it's coming in a very fast cycle. So we have one in November, we have another one in March, we have another one in May, we have one in June, one in July. It's just like, and so by July, things are going to be moving so fast. It's going to be great because it's going to feel like an age of enlightenment. There's going to be tremendous innovations and inventions, and we're going to find like solutions to problems that we couldn't even fathom before. So that's the good news. But the between time, it's going to feel chaotic and very fiery. And there's a big wake up call at the end of March that I'm helping people get ready for.
Wow, that's dramatic.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you work. Like, so I'm a business owner, and if I wanted to work with you, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it depends on what level of transformation you're looking for. If you're looking for, if you're going through a transition, like you're rebranding your company, or you're coming up with a new division, or you're taking a pivot and you're saying, you know what, I'm doing this, but I'm also going to do that. Then you'd want to come into my one-on-one container, because I'm going to be able to put you front and center. I'm going to be able to look at you, your business's energy, all the things, and I'm going to be able to literally tell you, like, these are the next steps, and this is how we're going to walk together to get to the change that you want. Great. Short of that, what you can do is I have this beautiful stepping stone program that's called Rich and Powerful Leaders Academy. And so you can do one workshop once a month where I'm teaching you how to use the stars, your own signature, and how to make decisions, how to show up with visibility, how to make impact, basically ensure you're going in the right direction, you're attracting the right people, and you're relying on the right resource. And that starts off introductory, like I said, and you can go to a hybrid approach that you're working with me one-on-one quarterly, or you're working with me one-on-one monthly. Like I said, if you want to be very tangential and just kind of dip your toe in, I'm doing the podcast. I've got my newsletter. I have the quiz. I'm doing a new era assessment right now, so you can help figure out where you are in the waves of the new era that are coming up. I do events that you can always participate in. So I like to leave a very big, vast pond. Like yesterday, I just did a live on LinkedIn with somebody. I'm on a cover of a magazine, and we just did a preview of that yesterday. And I had a handful of clients that showed up, and I was just saying, like, I'd like to leave breadcrumbs. And they were saying, no, Kim, they're feasts that you leave, like you leave these big bread baskets all around, right? What I do is so different, Carolyn, that I like to make sure that I am educating and leaving and creating value without a big ask, because the ask is do you believe that astrology can help you in your business? And do you believe that your energy is really an indicator of your success?
All right, so I have to ask, tell me about some of your favorite client success stories.
Oh my God. Okay. I have the most delicious client roster of anybody on the planet. I swear to God. So I have a client who is going through a major pivot. She's leaving one partnership that she's been in, and she's coming up with a beautiful signature offer from a coaching perspective. So we're taking all of her experience that she has, and we're applying it basically on her own basis of, I had all this success, but I'm not feeling satisfied.
Mm.
I have another client who, she has a gorgeous cafe and a business in Australia, and we're using that lovely business that she has to lay down as a prototype, because
Mhm.
she's now going to help other restaurants and other businesses do what she did. Um, I have a client who is in leadership, and he's a great author. And so we're helping him really own, because what leaders tend to do is put their people front and center and not themselves. So we're
Mhm.
helping him put him front and center. And yeah, that's just a few.
That's pretty amazing. All right, so I'm sure I didn't ask all of the questions. Tell me some more, something that I should ask. If
You
somebody who's
should ask, what will happen if you don't follow your soul mission?
there you go.
Right. So,
Uh-huh.
so there's our minds will always try to protect us, and our minds are beautiful, and we love our minds. And yet our minds are exhausted right now. Like, think about it. We're overloaded with information. We have how many decisions to make? I think like tens of thousands of decisions to make every day. So that's not really working for us. So recognizing that what's in our heart matters, and what, if we want to call it inner voice, inner guidance, instinct, intuition, soul, whatever word you want to use, recognizing we have an untapped resource that is here. It's free. We're always connected to it. We don't actually have to sit in meditation for 24 hours at a time or 20 minutes at a time. There are other ways, and very active ways, to tap into it, because it's going to become ever more difficult to ignore those internal nudges. Ultimately, it's good. In the meantime, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's nudging you in some way you're uncomfortable.
Oh, it will absolutely. When you step on your soul mission, it's the scariest thing you've ever done in your life. So what I tell people, if you're not petrified, you're not on your soul mission.
On a constant basis.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. So funny.
Absolutely.
One of my clients is like, can I give my soul a timeout? I'm like, yes, let's do that.
Awesome. Well, if people wanted to find out more about you, where would they go?
Best place to go is kimwoods.com. It's super easy. Everything's on my website. You can check out my podcast there, sign up for my newsletter there. You can take the quiz there. I do have a series of books. I have oracle cards. Like I said, I have a great introductory into my world. And so I'd love to invite you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.